Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to our Beego framework tutorials. My name is Lei Cao. Today we will talk about configurations in Beego. This is our outline. In Beego, there are some default parameter configurations which will let Beego project to run without any configurations, such as when you create a new Beego project with new project. You can directly use brun to run this project, and you can see it's running on some pod. And this pod is a predefined in Beego framework, and you can change this. You can change this all those configurations. You can see these configurations from in the document here. You can see all those available configurations. So in Beego, you have two ways to define these configurations. The first one is configure them in the configure file, such as here. This is the default configure file. The app configure /app.config. And here you can define such as HTTP port, run mode. As you can see here, in this configure file, it is the configure key is case insensitive. So you can use all lowercase or whatever uppercase. But we recommend you to use as same as the key in the document. And another way to configure those parameters is you can set those configure values by beego.app.configure key and with some value inside the main.go. Just before the beego.run, it will the value you set here will overwrite the value you defined in the app.configure. Such as in the app.conf you defined HTTP port 8881, but here you set the beego.http port to 88880. Then when you run your project, you will see the configuration in the app.configure is overwritten by the beego.http port. So okay, next let's go through all the configurations listed here. We will see it in our code. So the first one is the beego.app.name. It's just to set some identifier for the Beego project. So the second one is beego.apppath. Actually, this configuration you cannot set it because it will even though you set something for it, it will not work, because when you run the project, it will always replaced by the first parameter of the executed command by os.args0, the first parameter, the argument. Such as when you run such as in here, when we run this value will be this the first parameter. So sometimes when you use some other software or command to run our Beego project, such as supervisor, you need to set up the full path for it. Then it will know it. You must set a full path to let the supervisor know where is exactly your project project. So the next one is is a Beego.app configure path. You can change this configure path go to some other file, such as I define something here. All those values inside this app configure path, all the value inside this file will overwrite both app.config and main.go. So next, we've already talked about this HTTP port. It will define the port your project is listening to. The next one is enable HTTP listening. So if you disable it, let me change it. Okay, your project now is rebuilt to 8888. When you run it, it will say it cannot run. So let's enable it. It already built it. So this time you can run it. It's written an error now. So you can disable your Beego project by enable HTTP listening. So next one is the HTTP address. It's an IP address. So if the default value is empty, which means it will listening all the network's adapted IP address. Now we define it to 127.1.0.0.1. So the next configuration is Beego.enable HTTP TLS. It will enable the SSL, the HTTPS. So if we do this, and it have some other configures, which is the HTTPS port. We define it to 10443, which is also the default port. And I've already set up the HTTP certification file and the key file, which is here. You can go to there, have a look. As you can see, I've already defined the key certification and the key here and set it up. Now we can I need to run this. Think here has a bug. Sometimes you need to load the multiple times to enable it. It cannot kill the I think the port is in use. We change it to another one. Okay, now it's running. It takes some time to kill the port. We will investigate it to see it's a problem in Beego or other problems. Anyway, now we can visit our HTTP for 0.3. We can process it. Now you can see we are visiting our project with HTTPS. So yeah, this is the configures related to the HTTPS. I mean, by default it's disabled. So let's not this one, sorry. This one by default is disabled. So let's disable it. So next one is next configure is HTTP server timeout. So if the default is no timeout, let's have a look of this. Now I set the timeouts to 4 seconds, which means if the let me set it here. Let's set up some timeout for this project. We will set up our project will sleep for 3 seconds. So, which means our project will at least run for 3 seconds, and we set up the timeout for 4 seconds, which means in our case it will not time out. Oh yes, I disabled it. Oh, I need to use brun to automatically building my changes, building the project. Now right now when I visit this, as you can see, it will load for 3 seconds. It will sleep for 3 seconds. And because I set up the timeout to 4 seconds, so it will not time out. So if I change it to 2 seconds, let's see what would happen. Right now the browser is trying to reconnect to the backend. As you can see, it timed out for around 6 or 7 seconds. It is because we set up this HTTP server timeout to 2 seconds, and our project will sleep for 3 seconds. So when the request coming, our project up to 2 seconds, which is set up by this timeout. So after 2 seconds, our project will the HTTP connection will close. So, but the browser doesn't know the server already closed the connection. So the browser will keep loading, trying to reload, refresh this page, trying to reload this. But when it still cannot find when it still cannot have this connection, it will return the empty page. It will drop this connection. So yeah, this is the HTTP server timeout. Let's set it to higher. Disable this timeout. So let's see the next. Actually, if I change this to development, let's see this again. Let's check out this again. Let's change it to 4 seconds. Okay, it doesn't change much. So anyway, let's have a look of the next configuration, which is the run mode. By default, it will run as the development mode. You can change it to PROD, which is production mode. For the difference of these two modes is in the developer mode, when there is some error or exceptions, it will return this. It will print out this static trace error message. But if you change this to production mode, it will just return the internal server error accordingly. So this is the different the major difference of these two modes. So let's go to see another configuration, which is Beego.auto-render. So by default it is true, which means in our controller, such as this one, in this controller you don't need to call this function. You just need to set up the template to some template. Then you visit this page. I think I said something wrong. This is view auto. So I don't need to have this. Let me try it again. Let me have a look of this auto render. This strange. Oh, sorry, because I set it. I closed the auto render in this get function. So if I remove this configure, and let's have a look again. If I set this to true, so we set the auto render to true, which is also the default version, default value. When we visit this page, it will automatically render the template if you have the template set. So if we disable this auto render, we can set it to false. Then when we visit this page, it's a blank page. It's not automatically rendered. So you need to call this dot render to render the wheel, to render the template. Yep. So let's go to the next one. So the next one is a Beego.recover panic. So it will catch the exceptions and recover it from the panic. Let's have a look. First, let's make it panic. This recover panic, we set it to false. So when there's a panic, this page will not. It will just print out the error, the stack trash, the error message inside the command line. So right now, if we set it to true, which let it recover from the panic, it will the project will still run. still run, and it will output the stack chats inside the browser. And in the backend, as you can see, in the backend, when it is recovered, as you can see, it just tell you the error happened, and it will not the program is not crashed. So let's check about, let's see the next config. The next one is the view path. The default view path for the template is views under the Beego project. You can change it. You can change it to my views. Can change it to my views, and I need to get rid of this panic. Yeah, now you are loading it from my views, so you can define your own view folder. So let's see the next one. So the next one is the session. Most of our project, the web project, we need session control. In Beego, the session is disabled by default, so you can enable it by session on, and you can set up the providers. There's several options like memory, like I think have a Redis or file, and you can have a look in the document, and later we will also talk about this. So we have a session name. You can define your different session name. The default one is a Beego session ID. So the session name is a cookie name actually. So the cookie name is stored in the browser. So you can define the session expire time. And you can define the session path if you are using file or other like memory cache. You can use SHA-1 and MD5 as the session hash function to generate the session key. You can set up some session hash key, which is some random secured key to make the session key safe. And also you can set up the session cookie lifetime, which is the cookie lifetime in the browser. So let's have a look at our example. Okay, in this example, in this say hello function, we can see we will get this session from which named the Beego, and then we will see if this session is not set yet. We will set it to 1, the int 1. So if the session is already set, we will increase it by 1, and then we will output it. We will output it here in the hello template, which is here. You can see we output this number here, which is the session count. So let's have a look of our hello. As you can see, this one current count is in here. This current count is our session count number. So now the first time it's 0. So if I refresh this page, you can see it is growing. So you can see the session is working. So about this to for this session lifetime. If you set it to a small value like 2 seconds, then we'll refresh this page. You can see it's already expired, and then it's still expiring. So if it's less than 2 seconds, the visit is less than 2 seconds, it will keep the value. But if it's more than 2 seconds, will stop more than 2 seconds, it will restore. The session will restore. So this is the configuration of the session max lifetime. So next one is this one. Let's increase this to higher value. The next one is session cookie lifetime. So the session cookie lifetime, you can set it to smaller ones such as 2 seconds. Then when you come back to visit this page, you refresh. After every 2 seconds, it will expire. The session will expire. See. Okay, so this is these two value the configurations related to the sessions. So the next one is the session. So you can see we can check the session ID. It's a cookie. It's a cookie name. We can check it. Refresh ones. Cookies. Here's some cookies. Okay, resources. Okay, so this is my configuration, my session ID. I defined here. I can change it to your session ID. It's loading. Okay, it become your session ID. So this is you can define your session ID, and so let's go to next configuration. This too, it will let Beego use CGI mode to run it, and this is the maximum memory for file uploading, the cache size. The default one is 64 megabytes. I think it's enough for most of the applications. Then the next configuration is enable Gzip. It is disabled by default. So if we set this to true, when we visit when we're sending out the request, as you can see, the response headers is content encoding is Gzip. It will use Gzip or Zlab to compress your responses. So if by default it's false, if we disable it, when we visit this, as you can see, the Gzip is gone. So this for this it's not comprised. So let's check the next one, which is Beego directory index. It will index the static directly to list the tree structure, such as our JS folder. You can see this is the file inside our JS folder, which is an empty file. Okay. Okay, let's see next configuration, which is Beego server name. We defined my server name here. The default is Beego and the Beego version. And let's see this request. You can see the server name is my server name. You can change it to some other value. So let's see the next configuration is Beego.enable admin. This is the supervisor mode. It will show the status of your project. And there are two related configurations. One is HTTP address. Now we define it to localhost, and another one is the admin HTTP port. We define the 8899. So if we read 8899, we will see a page like this. This is there's no like design or CSS for this page. It's just a pretty plain page. We will improve this later. So here you can see all the functions in the Beego admin mode. So you can see here, you can see the visit numbers for the request. It becomes 3 times. So there's a lot of other functions. We will talk about it later. Or you can read the document here. So yeah, I think it's called toolbox mode. Yeah, you can have a look of this document. So next, let's go to next configuration, which is that we'll define the template left and right identifier. The default one is brackets. If you know AngularJS or some other JS framework, you will know they also use these brackets for the template identifier. So if you use Beego with AngularJS together, it will have some conflicts. So you can change it to some other identifier, such as here. You can see we are using this identifier to output our to use them inside our view. So let's go to the next configuration. This error show. For this one, if we go to production mode, to change to production mode, and we disable the error show. By default, it's enabled. If we disable this, and if our project has some error, it just return the empty page. But if we disable it, we enable it, it will show you internal server error page. So this is the error show configuration. So let's see next configuration, which is XSRF related configurations. It will enable it or not, and by default it's disabled, and it have a XSRF key, the secure key, and you can configure the expiration time. So in this form we have a post form, and we have a actually this is from here. So you can see we created this, we set the XF expire to higher value here, and we will output, we will assign this key for our template, which is generated by as XSRI for each Timeout. It will generate the hide input here, and we will output it into our form. So if we go to this page, if we see, as you can see, it will, this is a tag of it says a XSRF tag. It have a secure key here. So with this enabled, if you post something, enable access RF. You can see here has the form data XRF post. So next, let's keep looking. So the next one is flash cookie. The configuration for the flash cookie name and the flash message separator. So the flash is the flash messenger between the request. It's saved in the client, the browser side. It's saved in the cookie. So the flash message is like, here we defined a flash reader by Beego read from request. So every time it will read from the request, see if there's a flash message set. Then if we find the message set, we will just output it as the notice. The notice it is here. You can see we output this notice as a flash count. So here we defined another one which called flash writer. So every time, every request, this will create a new flash message, and it will record. It will set it to the notice. The notice. It will set it to the number of the session count, and you can also set error. Then you use a flash writer. You use store function to save it to the computer. So every time when you visit this hello page, so here you can see the current count is 1, the flash count is 0. Let me make the cookie higher. You can do the 10. So the first time the count is 0. So when we refresh it, the session count is increased, but this flash message is still get the previous value we set. So we can see this is the previous value we set, and every time the flash message will be cleared. So it will only read once. So this is the flash message, and you can see in our cookies. Here's our cookies. In our cookies, we have a flash count, and we have a flash separator in identifier, like here, to this to set up the flash message, and the other part is yeah. So the last one is the Beego static directory dir, which will define the static files directory. So the Beego project, the default one is static. So we will talk about all those configure parameters in Beego project in Beego. So yep. Next we will talk about the app.config. So the key value pairs defined in app.config will override the default. Override the default one. And in this app configure, you can use the set function. By the way, this set key value will only set the configure inside the memory. It will not write to the file. So it's just temporary. It's in the memory. So if some people may have this request that will read all the configurations from database and create the file, the configure file from the database. So in that case, we maybe have another new feature which will allow user to set the configuration into the file, not only in the memory. So the other function is like string. You can read a string configuration. You can read array, the array and the int and the float bool configurations. So you can also define custom parameters, custom configurations parameters. So we have two kind of comment, which is colon, the semicolon and the hash. So here you can define those configurations, and you can this syntax is the section. You can define a section, and under the section you have some other configurations. And you can, for the section, you can use this syntax to read the configurations, like the section name, colon, and the key name, like these two. We'll load these configurations from the under the section demo, and actually all those configurations, it's under they are also under a section, the section which called default section. So you can use, yeah, and for this string you can read it you can read configurations to array, string array, such as this. You use semicolon to separate them, and then you can read them into a string. No, into an array. So thank you guys. This is the Beego tutorial about the configurations in Beego. So thank you for watching. See you next time.